What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sunday Sports Club podcast, a podcast all about sports. Actually, it's really not. I should honestly take that out of my intro because half the time it's not about sports. It's half the time about things that I just want to talk about. And today I'm really excited to have on guest Dr. Aliza Pressman. She's a developmental psychologist, parent educator, New York Times bestselling author, mother, and host of the Raising Good Humans podcast. Did I miss anything?
I mean, it doesn't matter as long as everybody feels safe and trusts me.
Oh, I love that. So I am a mother to a 2-year-old daughter, and I also have another daughter on the way here in a few months. So really excited to talk with you, especially because I feel like the parenting space has a lot of information.
Yeah, it
So
does.
when it comes to when it comes to raising children, first off and foremost, how would you describe your parenting style?
So I have two daughters. I have also a stepdaughter and a stepson. Uh, and I would say take everything I say with a grain of salt because, of course, behind closed doors, I'm sure I get it right like 55% of the time, which is plenty.
Hmm.
Um, I think when you're a developmental psychologist, you're actually easier on yourself because you know that there's like zoom out big stuff that really, really matters. But the day to day, like details are, as individual difference oriented as like putting seasoning in a recipe. And so people, I think on social media and in the, you know, culture of talking about parenting, might want to make it seem like that there's one right seasoning, but there isn't. So I guess my overall style or approach is what is considered evidence based across cultures and communities. It's just like loving limits,
Hmm.
warmth, and sensitivity alongside appropriate boundaries, and then paying attention to my kids' temperament and mine, and sprinkling in my personal values, and that would be my general framework.
I love that. It's almost, I feel like parenting for sure is not a one size fits all, especially because children are so different that one thing might work for one child and something else might not work for your second child. So it's not like you can just like plug and chug or all.
Totally.
That would be really easy.
Yeah.
How did you even get into developmental psychology?
I was actually supposed to go into clinical, where I would be a therapist and I would look for kind of the lens of diagnosis and psychopathology. And and then I took a class of it was just an intro to developmental psychology, and to study something where you're basically just diving into how we come to be who we are and paying it. I wasn't even a mom yet. I was just like, oh my God, it is so fascinating how humans develop and evolve into the adults that we are, and how much happens in the earlier years, though we're always changing and dynamic. Um, and so I just got a little bit obsessed. And I think anybody with a PhD, the feature isn't that you're like so good at school or so good at academia, it's that you are obsessive.
Hmm. Kind of love that. Um, how, so you mentioned like you got into it before you even became a parent. And
Mhm.
then once you were a parent, how do you see your professional training intersecting with your real life parenting experiences?
Well, I definitely like one of the things that I had to do in the early training that I got was um, like code interactions between parents and kids at these different time points. And you would give them what was called a three bag test, and it would have like three items in a bag, and they would take it out, and you would let them do whatever they wanted with the kid, and then you'd score them on like sensitivity, support, intellectual development, control, blah blah blah. And I probably had to watch 2,000 of those interactions and score them. And so what I would say is like to this day, like occasionally I'm thinking I would not give that a very high score, that interaction. But generally it gives me more ease with like potty training, sleeping, what to do about sort of big picture issues that maybe are challenging for other people because they're technical to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that yesterday I didn't like get snippy with my daughter because she irritated me. Because
Mm-hmm.
my kids are older, so they're not as like adorable all the time. Um, and so when those things happen, my kids are definitely like, "Do you want to put that on your podcast? Do you want to like tell everybody that's the key way to respond in a self-regulated way?" And I'm like, "No."
Nothing putting you in check.
It definitely put me in check. But we try to have a sense of humor about it, and I've told them always, like, my job is not because their, like, way of needling me is to say, "You're a professional parent," and I'm like, "Oh my god, there's no such thing." And so I get things wrong, and we have a sense of humor about it, and I think the key is just, like, I I love them, and, like,
Mm-hmm.
we all love our kids, so we have a close enough relationship that when I do make mistakes, I don't they're not afraid to tell me, and I'm not afraid to apologize.
My daughter's only 2, and I know that she is going to put me in my place in the future. Like, I can already sense that, which I kind of love. I'm like, you know what? Kids can help you grow as a person too.
Oh,
Um, and I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I already have because you grow so much as a person when you go from not having kids to having kids. So I'm sure that's also translated into your professional life as well.
oh my god, I'm completely different than I was when I started, and, um, also just a fun fact about the brain, the 3rd biggest point of development in the human brain is at the transition to parenthood. So when you are going through something that major, and people call it mom brain sometime, but they think of it as like I'm losing cognition. It's actually you're just reallocating and growing in certain areas, and it's really cool.
It's very interesting and it makes a lot of sense because 2 years ago I can't say I was the same person. But I want to transition into talking about your book, The Five Principles of Parenting. And one thing that stands out is good enough parenting. Can you explain why striving for perfection actually makes things harder on kids and why moms feel like they need to be perfect?
Well, I think that moms feel like they need to be perfect because women in particular are already predisposed to wanting everything to be perfect. And so we've already got that, you know, that starts early on. And then there's this most important thing in our lives, our kids. And so all of a sudden, you're so vulnerable, and control and getting things right makes us feel like less vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So when you compound that with like social media and all the stuff that's coming at you, and it's really hard to know, like, is this expert advice? Is this even, if it is expert advice, speaking to me emotionally and with my values? Like, is it making me feel at ease or really freaked out? I think all those things lend themselves to sort of a perfectionist spin on parenting. And then we have to think about, like, wait a second, if I'm perfect, which obviously none of us, that's not attainable. But even if it were, who wants to look at the person in their life that represented, like you have daughters, I have daughters, like the person in their life that is like what it means to be a woman, they will be looking to us. And
Mm-hmm.
if what that means is perfect, what a crappy legacy we've left, you know?
Yeah.
So, because you grow up and you find out the truth, which is you're not perfect. And if you still believe or buy into the fact that your mother was, it would make you feel so unworthy. And if you know she was inauthentic and pretending to be, but was never like a person, that would also cause friction. So I really want to encourage people to just accept that we're going to blow it sometimes, and actually know that when we do, we're doing some other muscle work, like growth, that's not as pretty and it's more uncomfortable, but it's actually also really wonderful for our kids to see.
Yeah, I feel like almost not being a perfect parent is more important because then they see you able to grow
Yep.
and you able to like, oh, mommy made a mistake. Mommy is sorry, X, Y, and Z. Whereas in if I'm perfect, my daughter's going to grow up thinking like, Wow, like I have a lot to live up to.
Yeah, nobody wants to live up to that.
Hmm.
It's really a burden for kids. So I think when we berate ourselves for not getting it right sometimes, if there even is such a thing, remember that, like give yourself grace and also remember I'm unburdening my daughter right now.
I like that a lot. I'm gonna think, wow, I just lost my temper. Okay. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm actually doing her,
Yeah.
I'm actually parenting right now still.
Yeah.
Um, Life is really busy these days. I mean, everybody has so many things going on. Everyone's trying to do side hustles and their normal job and keep up a relationship. How can parents create a calm home when life can be really chaotic and schedules can be very unpredictable?
So I would just like pick three anchors in your child's day and in your day that are non-negotiable. And then, of course, know that every once in a while it becomes negotiable. But
Mhm.
if for the majority of the time, you always read before bed, you always sing one song at wake up time, and you always like blow six kisses when before drop off, small enough that you can guarantee that it's the same every day, then the chaos doesn't feel as chaotic. There's something that's predictable and it kind of anchors your day. And
Mhm.
the more of those opportunities you have, the calmer everybody can feel, even in chaos. And then it's also acknowledging, like, I have to reshuffle my priorities. Like if it's not possible to find three consistent, even tiny things to do each day, your day needs to be readjusted. We have to shake
Mhm.
things up a bit. We're doing too much, and no child needs that. Now, there are some circumstances where parents just don't have a choice. Like their circumstances are so challenging that it's inevitably going to be more chaotic. I still think you can find one song to sing in the morning, you know, at drop off and a bedtime book in no
Mhm.
matter what.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not saying those are the things. I'm just picking things that are pretty attainable.
Yes. Let's be real. Women have been sold every quote unquote miracle product under the sun, 30-day transformations, quick fixes, overnight results, and somehow none of them actually last. Surprise, surprise. That's why Nutrafol stands out for me. It's not just about hype, it's about committing to simple daily routine that supports hair health from within so the results actually build over time. You guys, I have tried two different formulas from Nutrafol. I did their woman's normal formula and it helped so much with the growth of my hair after keeping extensions in for way too long, them twisting out and pulling my hair with it. And for me, I get a lot of confidence. Like if I feel good about my hair or my outfit, or sometimes if I have a tan, one of those three things, I'm like, okay, I feel good about myself. And hair health is just a priority for me, especially when it comes to feeling confident. Good hair days do a lot more than I feel like we give them credit for. So when your hair feels healthy, you show up differently. The second time I used the Nutrafol postpartum formula, and it was a game changer, okay? And I'm not talking like, oh, overnight my hair grew, but you could just tell like as months went on how much healthier my hair felt, how much fuller and thicker, and it was not falling out in clumps anymore. So a true game changer. If you guys are new to hearing about Nutrafol, Nutrafol is the number one dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the number one hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. So let your hair be one last thing that you worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code Sunday. That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code Sunday.
Thy ticket, Lady Jennifer of Coolidge.
Well, many thanks, good sir. Here'th my Discover card.
They accept Discover at Renaissance fairs?
Yeah, they do here. Discover's accepted at the places I love to shop. Getteth with the times.
With the times?
You're playing the lute. Yeah, and it sounds pretty good, right?
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2025 Nielsen report.
when you read a parenting book or when you're listening to a parenting podcast, you tend to think like, oh, okay, so that means like we need to all sit down for breakfast every single day, and you pick like these big things, but you're saying it can be way more attainable than that.
It has to be, or it's unsustainable. And you would have such burnout. And, like with your first kid, you're going to be more conscientious about it. And then the more kids you have, the more you're like, can I?
Ooh.
Um, but you realize you prioritize, and all that stuff that you thought was so important isn't going to be as important. For example, mealtime together is very important. To have at least 4 family meals a week is really important. But that's very attainable when you think about how many meals a day there are, that we're just talking about 4 a week. Instead of thinking every single meal, we're going to sit down, we're going to look into each other's eyes, we're going to communicate, we're going to have healthy eating habits in front of them, but not talk about it. And we're not going to talk like all the things. If you just say, I just need to find 4 sit down meals, that is attainable. And that's what the research shows.
Yes. Well, and speaking of research, while becoming a first time parent, I tried to read as many books as I could. And then I'm finding, okay, all these books are kind of contradicting one another. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't know this was controversial. And this, are there any myths about early childhood development that you wish would disappear?
Yes. And I really look, research is like, so
It's research.
It's research. We learn new things. It's not your individual circumstances, but we can look at averages. And on average, we see 0 difference in, for example, secure attachment relationships, whether a parent breastfeeds or doesn't breastfeed, or a child sleeps in their family bedroom or in a separate room. So a lot of those procedural things, like how you decide to do sleep and feeding, are so irrelevant as long as you are getting sleep and feeding. This is not to say that I breastfed both my daughters for their first year because I loved it so much, because I had a C-section, and I really felt like, at the time, I don't know that I would feel this way today. At the time, I felt less than because I had a C-section, and I was like, oh, well, I have to do something very natural because I did a C-section. So for me, it was a very wonderful experience. But I had friends for whom they were forcing themselves to do it because they thought it was better for their child, but they were crying all day because they themselves. And I was like, no, that is totally harmful to you. Do not do that, because what's important is how you feel connected to this baby. So I think that would be the biggest set of myths, that there's this sort of right way to feed or, put to sleep or any of those things. Crying it out or versus not crying it out. As long as you wait till the brain is a little bit more developed, so they need to get a few months of getting, you respond to their cries. But if you want to spend a week or 2 with some crying it out because you're just like, I need to sleep, they need to sleep, everybody's going to be fine. If you don't believe in that and you are like, no, we're going to sleep in the same room, in the same, as long as you're safe. The American Academy of Pediatrics likes you to be in a co-sleeper, not in the same bed. But whatever you want that lets the child sleep is the best sleep. So there are tons of books that you're going to see. Like, there's a very famous book that talks about how bad that crying it out is for the brain, and babies who did cry it out. And it talks about like research studies, and it says that they had failure to thrive and didn't have secure attachment, all these things. And what people don't know if they're reading a book like that is like, what study did that come from? In that case, that book was referencing studies done in Romanian orphanages where babies were put in giant gymnasiums and left to just be. So like, of course, crying and not getting attended to is horrible for them. That is quite different than in a loving household where for like a couple of nights, you're like, I'm going to put you to sleep. And then you're probably not going to want me to leave the room, but I'm going to leave the room and then I'll come back when you're asleep. That is totally unfair to parents. So, and again, if you don't want to do that, that's okay too. So I think on both sides of these kinds of things, those myths are there. I would say other things are related to discipline. And those are probably the three categories: feeding, discipline, and sleep.
It's definitely where I see the most like discourse is like the crying it out or the like fed is best versus like, oh no, breast is best. And it's crazy. I also had a C-section, and I had a very successful breastfeeding journey until it wasn't. And then I pumped up until a year. And it's crazy because looking back now, I put so much pressure on myself because it was like I couldn't control the C-section, but I could control this.
Totally get it.
And this next baby, I'm like, if it doesn't work out breastfeeding,
Enjoy.
because my mental health started to pay a huge price for it with exclusively pumping. And I'm like, wait, I'm giving her like, yes, the benefit of food, but I, at the same time, am losing, like, it's almost like I'm resenting doing this and it's affecting my mental health, which makes me a worse parent.
Exactly. So you have to be self-reflective as a parent. You just have, so that you can say like, wait, this is crazy. This is crazy that I've allowed culture to influence me to the point where I resent my kid because instead of hanging out with them, I'm sitting here with a pump and I'm like waking up all the time and it's
I
crazy.
would recommend.
And then for people who love it, Godspeed.
Yes.
But it's, we're not in a situation where we're talking about like nutrition at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know actually what I was thinking, but you do a lot of crazy things postpartum, especially with your first.
Yeah, well, you're trying to sort of control what feels controllable.
Absolutely. Which when you're a parent, you can't really control everything. And so I have a 2-year-old and I have another one on the way. Do you think there is a right time or a wrong way to prep a toddler to become a big sister?
Ideally, because they don't have a sense of time, you wait till you're showing. Because otherwise it just doesn't land until you have this concrete belly where you could be like, there's a baby in here and that baby is your sister and you're going to meet her and you could talk about the seasons. Let's say it's winter now and you're going to meet her in the summertime. So when the trees come back and the leaves are green, then you're going to meet your sister. And then it's a matter of not talking about it so much that it feels like everything is the center is this baby, periodically mentioning it, and then not promising that everything's going to be great. You're going to be so obsessed with this baby. You're going to love this baby, because that's not true.
Yeah.
You can be more realistic as, it gets closer. You really don't need to give much information other than let me know if you have any questions. And then if she has the language to ask questions, she might ask you a little bit about what to expect. And you can say lots of babies cry a lot. They need their diapers changed. They sleep a lot. You're giving sort of a reality check because the fun playmate that you're going to have isn't coming for a long time. So you don't need to talk about that.
Absolutely. And when it comes to like prepping before a baby gets here, let's say potty training, would you recommend doing that before or after a baby? Because like, I feel like in my own personal head, I'm like, oh, I don't want her to think that I'm going to force all these new things on her because a baby's here and then, taking away my attention. So I'm curious.
Well, you want to wait. You want to have only one transition for every 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. You don't want to do getting rid of pacifiers, potty training, going into a big kid bed. Like all those things need to be separated out, as does becoming a new sibling. So it doesn't matter whether you do it before or after so much as giving it some breathing room, so that it's not like piled on. And also, just in case you were thinking no crib when the baby comes, you should keep the crib for 3 years. Like there's no reason to torture yourself. A 2-year-old's going to get out of the bed and they're going to come in your room.
Yeah, I kind of already figured that. She actually has yet to find out that she could probably crawl. I mean, she is in the 105th percentile, so she can definitely crawl out of her crib if she wanted to, but she hasn't figured that out. Yeah, I'm like, she hasn't figured that out yet, so we're going to keep her there until she figures that out. And then once the baby's here, how do I tell the difference between just like normal toddler behavior versus like actual jealousy? And when do I need to intervene versus like let it play out?
The thing is that the hardest age is typically 3. So sometimes 2 feels harder, but really that's because you haven't had a 3-year-old yet.
Love it.
So I would say 3 is usually the hardest. Sometimes 2 is, but definitely in the 2 to 3. So you don't need to know whether it's typical toddler or jealousy because you'll have the same response, which is if she's pushing limits, you're going to hold them with gently but firmly, and harming another human, a baby human, is not on the table. Like that's not an option, but you can be angry and you can be resentful and you can even want, to say, I don't like this baby, as long as you don't do anything. And that would be true for, whether there's jealousy or no jealousy. It would be true if it were a play date without a sibling. It's just the one thing to keep in mind is, how do you feel? Like the idea is, and I remember I cried on the way to the hospital giving birth to my youngest. I was sobbing because I was like, I will never love anybody as much as I love my oldest. This is a sham. And, and I'm a developmental psychologist. Like I knew what to expect. And I cried saying goodbye to her. I cried, on the way to the hospital. I was just like, how could I do this to her? I'm like her. We're like, it's us, And then the second I gave birth, and this doesn't happen to everybody, but the second I gave birth to my younger one, Vivian, I was like, oh, my heart just grew and I have so much room. And I was like, I could cry thinking about it. So I'm so excited for you. And if it doesn't happen right away, it happens. There's one thing that you almost never see in studies about mothers and babies. You almost never see a mother who doesn't love her baby. It's even in the depths of addiction and terrible circumstances, it is how we are wired to be. And so you don't have to worry about that, but it's still like a thought. It's still a thought. And so, well, now I forgot the question.
I think you've answered it. It is interesting though, because I think everybody talks about like, oh, the second you see your child, it's going to instantly change. For me, I was having a C-section. There's a bunch of surgeons in the room. It wasn't how I had pictured it. But then we're in our recovery room. My husband's asleep. I'm taking care of the baby. And I'm like, this is okay. Now I'm getting what they're talking about. And I'm sure it's going to happen with the second, but it is crazy because the first thing I thought of when I found out I was pregnant is, oh my gosh, it's not just going to be me and her anymore. And that made me sad. Yeah. But I also still have to think, okay, yes, but I'm going to give her a sister for her life. And we're going to have so many memories as a family. But it's hard to think about that in the moment.
You just have to give yourself room to be sad about it because you're letting go of a version of your life, each other that was like a dyad. It was 2 people. I mean, also your partner.
Yeah, him too.
But it's like, it is natural to feel like, oh my God. And then it's also a wild thing to have that moment of, I just got the best gift in the world and I've given the best gift in the world. But it's just hard to imagine, like, intellectually that that's the way it's going to go down.
Yes.
The timing of it, it can take a while. And for the older siblings, often they're perfectly happy the first 6 to 9 months because it's a blob a little bit more.
Right.
And then once they start crawling and interacting and people are like watching them respond, then you see the kind of rejecting behaviors that you might have braced for in the early weeks and months.
Life feels crazy busy, and I can't be the only one that feels that way. Some days I get to the end of my day and I just do not want to cook. You guys, Some days it feels like every day these days. And I don't want to cook. And I'm like, do I order? I just wish I had something in my fridge. And that's where Marley Spoon comes in, because Marley Spoon actually adapts with you. So some nights you cook, some nights you heat, and some nights you just need dinner done fast. And they have options for all of it. So that means meals that fit your schedule and not the other way around. And it also helps me stay eating well and not overthinking it. So everything is chef designed, made with quality ingredients. About it, you guys, as a mom and just as a working mom, I feel like some of these days it just feels like, oh, and I have to cook dinner, and Marley Spoon takes that guesswork out of it. But then you have the days where you're like, wow, like I'm really looking forward to spending time together as a family and including our toddler and cooking. And Marley Spoon also comes in there because you can also choose to cook. They give you over 100 recipes to choose from each week. We're talking comforting classics like chicken Milanese with cucumber arugula salad to fresh, balanced dishes like everything bagel salmon with truffle chive potatoes and green beans, all made with quality ingredients. So there's truly something for every single mood. And Marley Spoon has tons of options in their marketplace as well. So from meal shortcuts and drinks to fresh groceries you can add on each week. This new year, fast track your way to eating well with Marley Spoon. Head to marleyspoon.com/offer/Sunday for up to 25 free meals. That's right, up to 25 free meals with Marley Spoon. That's marleyspoon.com/offer/Sunday for up to 25 free meals. My favorite thing to drink when traveling is an Olipop. So right now, I'm about to crack one open. I don't have any nails, so it's not very ASMR. When I'm traveling, I love a beverage just to enjoy, whether I'm going for a walk or I'm hanging out with the family, maybe I'm reading a book and it's nap time for my toddler. I love enjoying a beverage, and my favorite go-to beverage is Olipop. They have so many incredible flavors. I love every single flavor I've ever tried. I think I talked about it in a few episodes ago, the Shirley Temple flavor. So good, but like you can't go wrong with the classics. So like root beer, cream soda, classic grape. They're honestly all my favorites. Like I feel like I kind of cycle between which one is my favorite. For me, I discovered Olipop right around the perfect time because I was pregnant with my daughter, and I just was looking for that carbonated soda taste without all of the additives and like junk put into a soda. And thus I discovered Olipop and I fell in love with it. If you guys are new to Olipop, Olipop is a new kind of soda that combines the classic soda taste with the benefits of functional ingredient blend to support digestive health. And if you follow me on any social media, you know sometimes I need some help in the digestive health area. Olipop is reimagining soda with high fiber and low sugar. And again, you just can't go wrong with any of their classic flavors. I think root beer is up there for me right now. That's like my recent favorite pregnancy go-to. Right now, you guys can get a free can of Olipop if you buy any 2 cans of Olipop in store, and they'll pay you back for 1. It works on any flavor, any retailer. So go to drinkolipop.com/Sunday. Olipop is sold online at drinkolipop.com and Amazon, and available in the soda aisle and with chilled beverages at thousands of retailers nationwide, including Walmart, Target, Costco, and Whole Foods.
I think dads have to do a lot of work. The burden is definitely historically on the moms, but I think if the dads can do a little bit of work of not being centered for a little while, it can help. And also moms can do a little bit of work saying, you know what, I'm going to almost force myself to have a date, even though I feel like I don't want to leave the house or I don't want to leave the babies. But you're feeding your relationship, and having a healthy, wonderful relationship that they get to see over years and years is more beneficial than you being home that Wednesday night that you guys went on your date night.
Absolutely. And I have to believe that it's healthy for your kids to see that.
It is. And, being affectionate's really important. And because you're getting so much oxytocin from the baby, you can forget that your husband needs like a little, not a little petting as well. And so it's really wonderful to remember, oh, I get more oxytocin. Like that's the love hormone. I'm getting more because I'm the mom. So he'll get a little, but you're getting the bulk of it. And so you need to give him his oxytocin hit every day. And that comes from looking into each other's eyes. And look, I'm making the most ridiculous gesture, but whatever is affection in your family. And so I think those small things and learning each other's temperament and like not their actual love language, but like the idea of like, well, what is a small gesture of appreciation that no matter what, I can still notice in my partner.
Absolutely. And I mean, the newborn days, you're exhausted, you're doing a lot, the days are kind of blending in. How do we give ourselves grace while still feeling like we're showing up as good enough parents? And like, how do you know you're actually doing okay?
Well, okay, so there's a couple things in that question. First of all, you, the mother, which is my most important person in this scenario. And there is no mother without child or child without mother. It's what we call in the research, it's a dyadic relationship because you don't exist without each other as a mother child, right? And so you taking care of yourself is taking care of your child. And you need to have just a check-in with yourself. Am I tearing up at a commercial or tearing up at like just how fast it's all going or whatever? This is like little light baby blues and emotions and hormones. But if you're just feeling detached, disconnected, inconsolably crying, you have to go run, don't walk to your OBGYN or to the pediatrician and get that managed. It's the most important thing. It's totally manageable. And that's my first sort of like, take care of yourself. And that's one of those things where you kind of have to just know that healthcare providers see it all the time and they are not judging. They are so, so honored to have a mother vulnerably come to them and say, something's not right here. Something is off.
Yeah.
Which is quite different than you're tearing up at every commercial and having somebody be like, maybe you have postpartum depression. And you feel like throwing a shoe at them because you're just like, no. That's one thing. And the other thing is you are getting it right. Like if you're even thinking about it and you have a moment of tenderness with yourself and with your baby, it is so hard to mess up the first 9 months as long as you are loving. And I hope this makes you feel better, but there's tons of research on observing mother-infant pairs, and they are attuned, that like really beautiful word that we talk about when we're talking about connecting and having a good relationship. They're attuned with one another 33% of the time in healthy relationships, and the entire rest of the time is disconnect, discord, and reconnection, repair, back and forth. That is much more attainable than the sort of fantasy mother of I'm like just gazing into your eyes and I feel exclusive connection with you for the entirety of a 24-hour period. That's ridiculous. So just knowing that in healthy, securely attached mother-child relationships, it's 33% of the time attuned and the rest of the time. And discord doesn't mean you're arguing with an infant. It means that you looked at your phone or you kind of checked out or you zoned, like you're zoning. And the repair doesn't mean in that case that you're like, mommy's so sorry. And I didn't mean to be mad at you because it's very unlikely that that's what's going on. The repair is you reconnect, your eyes catch each other again. That's repair. So it looks quite different than, it really shouldn't be called repair. It should be called reconnection. So if you're telling me 33% of the time I feel pretty connected to my kid and the rest of the time is this discord and repair, you're doing great.
Love that. And then last question before we jump into some rapid fire questions. What's one thing that you wish every parent knew?
One thing that I wish, is this a rapid fire question? Okay. Well, I think just keep having in your mind, all feelings are welcome, all behaviors are not. Okay. That feeling is allowed. We are all allowed to feel however we feel because nobody controls any of our feelings except, like how we're managing them. But the behavior side of it, I'm going to set limits on that. And then you kind of get the whole gist of parenting and our responsibility as parents in one sentence. And I think I'd like parents to know that they're the right parent for their kid the majority of the time. And if you feel like you're not, go get help.
I love that. I truly do. Let's jump into some rapid. I'm going to use that on my husband. All feelings are welcome, but all behaviors are not. I'm actually going to use that. I hope he's listening to this right now. Some rapid fire, this or that parenting in sports terms. So toddler tantrum, timeout, or penalty box. So like penalty box being like, I don't know. Yes.
Yeah. Depends on the family, depends on the kid, depends how it's done. By the way, psychologists are really good at, on the one hand, on the other hand.
This is going to be a fun this or that.
But typically, timeouts are limited to like really problematic, like aggressive behavior when you're just sort of like, it's that or I'm going to get really angry. And then obviously like a peaceful timeout is better than getting angry.
Handling sibling fights, let them play through it or blow the whistle.
Let them play through it unless somebody is going to be harmed, like blood or, something, broken bones.
Yeah. Kids sports, let them choose their sport or pick for them.
Let them choose their sport.
Picky eating battles, force the full playbook or take what you can get.
Take what you can get.
I like that because my daughter, I swear, she's like osmosis eating these days.
Yeah.
Bedtime routine. Yeah, I'm like bedtime routine, strict playbook, or calling audibles.
I mean, nothing to me is ever super strict, but I would be pretty vigilant because sleep is one of the best things you can do for your kids.
I love that. Your parenting approach, team sport or individual sport?
Team sport, ideally.
Love that. And then where can the people find you?
Oh, I have a podcast, Raising Good Humans podcast. I have a Substack, dralizapressman.substack.com. I'm on Instagram at Raising Good Humans podcast. And I have a lot of free resources there and also at MountSinaiParentingCenter.org.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for you. I
Yes.
love having daughters.
I'll touch in what's the next baby is here and I'm surviving.
Yes.
But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to tune in every Sunday wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.